Okay, so we've all heard the stories, haven't we, about people falling in love with robots. And so I started this series off yesterday talking about how there's a great possibility that a lot of people on the internet are not really people, but they're robots. I mean, this conversation has been going on for a long time. And so there's like, I mean, it's such a bizarre and strange thing that occurrence that's taking place. And sometimes it just sounds so not right. I mean, because if it's true that robots are having conversations on the internet, then that opens the door for scrutiny related to conversations on the internet. So if robots are having conversations on the internet with humans and with each other, so if it's a robot to robot conversation, then that opens the door for legalities in the court system to be to for someone to say, well, wait, how could I be harmed by a robot? The robot said this conversation to me, so, how could a robot have intent on doing some kind of harm to me when it's just the robot that wrote out and blurted out some words? How can a robot actually follow through with what the robot said? So, if the robot is speaking, how could the robot actually follow through with what the robot said? So, if a robot says something that comes across as inappropriate, even though it may not be, how could it actually follow through? So that's just something I was thinking about. I actually had another word. I should write down some of my words that I plan on using for my robot series. And um, how do you guys feel about people saying that they're in love with robots? How do you guys feel about that? Because I know I've talked to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT specifically says I'm not programmed for things like that. I mean, which is a fact. It's true that robots are not programmed for things like that. But there's so many people on the internet. I mean, I've seen it on TikTok, I have seen it on YouTube, and these people are having these relationships with people they've never seen before. And they've never even sent each other pictures, and they've just said, we're having this long distance relationship. Hello, Caleb. How are you? Would you care to share? If you guys would like to share where you're from, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I just thought I'd open the door for that. If you would like to share where you're from, I know I used to at one time, but for reasons that I will, I've learned that it's not the best thing to tell people where you're from. Even though I know a lot of people do, and they feel comfortable doing it. But, um, so what are you up to tonight, Caleb? Anyone have any thoughts on this? I know it probably sounds like a strange topic, but people have been. I mean, they said there was a guy from Japan who actually wanted to get married to his robot. But sometimes I think they just take it a little bit, well, a little bit too far because, you know, it's more or less like it goes into some weird fetish stuff that um that makes people really uncomfortable then. But just people in general. Um OMG Ray Lay Girl Pop. I don't know if I said your name right, but hello. OMG Cheyenneandra. Hi, hello. Cheyenne Cheyenne Andra. Shiny Andra. Okay, that might be it. Shiny Andra, is that it? I hope I said your name right. I have to kind of sound it out. Um, it's OMG Lorex Slay Girly Pop. Okay. Okay. So our conversation tonight is, how do you feel about people who say they are in love with robots? I mean, I get it when someone says, I love my RoboVac. Maybe it's something that's convenient for them, and that makes sense. If they love their RoboVac, it's not like they're talking about that they're going to get married to their RoboVac. There is a iPad Kid. Okay, so what is iPad Kid doing? Is he doing something? Like, is he in love with something? Can you tell me what iPad Kid is doing? iPad Kid. Hello, Adam Gamer. Hello. The purple colors are really pretty that we have for the crowns. They are really pretty. So does anyone have any thoughts on the controversial topic of people being in love with robots and having long distance relationships with robots or people too? I mean, I find that so strange, and I know it's none of my business. But I've heard so many people talking about that they're having these relationships with people. And I know a year ago, when I was on TikTok, um, there was a girl, and well, I can't even really repeat what she was saying because it just goes into that realm of things that are just turn out not so good for people. And so she was living in one country and the guy she liked was living in another country, but they'd never actually met each other. And, so, I mean, these are just some of the strange, and it seems like it's a huge, big amount of people who are doing this stuff. Everyone must be sleeping tonight, maybe, or they're doing something else, probably getting ready for bed, I would imagine. I wish we got more of the conversation about iPad Kid. Like, what is iPad Kid doing? Start at Q&A, start a poll. Okay, so I put a poll up. Asking I can't even spell, can I? Human v robot. I can't correct my spelling. Human v. Why is the V in there?